Hi, how's everything going? This you have one of the coolest short films on this bite-sized Halloween eye exam. Tell us a little bit about it and about the story and how it came about.
Well, it was written by the producer Jack Tarling, and unlike myself, I have really good vision. I have 20/20 vision. I've had an eye test once in my life in which I was told I've got perfect vision. So Jack wears glasses, and he's been for lots of eye tests, and he wrote the short, and so that's kind of what inspired it and where it was coming from. I guess that feeling of being, if you're at the dentist or if you're having an eye exam, the feeling of being kind of vulnerable and having someone in really close proximity who's a stranger examining you in a kind of an intimate way, I guess, is automatically puts you a little bit on edge. And it was about exploiting that potential for fear in that.
Oh, cool. And it's only 3 minutes and 2 seconds long, so it's very quick, very get it in your hand and watch it and enjoy the film. And what was it? How hard was it to cut down everything that you shot into 3 minutes and 2 seconds?
It was actually really hard. And originally, there'd been a conversation earlier about them being even shorter, about them being, I think, a minute long. And that would have been really, really hard. But I think it's always helpful. Uh, Having that kind of constraint is always helpful, particularly
Mhm,
in a short film,
mhm,
because you find that the story gets stronger the more that you cut it down, the more
mhm,
that you weed out. It just helps to up the tension and really kind of crystallize the core of what is this without too much wandering around the point. You know what I mean?
you're right.
So it was hard to really get it to that sweet spot where we felt the tension was just right,
Mhm.
um, and to fit it into the time frame that we had. But we got there in the end. I
Oh,
hope.
that's cool. Oh, you did were able to concise it into that time frame really nice. I don't see how you could have done the same in a minute because there's
Yeah.
because one, I love the way it was shot and I love the color palette that you used, especially
Well,
in
thank
the
you.
eye exam room. What was it about the color using those type of colors in the color palette? Because in the waiting room it's very bright, vibrant and bright, and then as soon as you go into the eye exam room, it's cold and dark. And what was the whole idea and the whole thought process behind that?
Well, I wanted the two spaces to feel very different.
Mhm,
Um, the waiting room is kind of a liminal space before she really gets into the. There are hints in the waiting room that it's not quite right.
mhm,
The TV is weird. Um, there's a poster on the wall of it, like and you might, it's the kind of thing, blink and you'll miss it, you
mhm,
know. But there's a
mhm,
poster on the wall that's kind of an anatomical drawing of an eye extraction. So there are hints that things aren't exactly right in the waiting room, but it's
mhm,
not all out.
mhm,
In order that we should get her into that eye exam room, and I wanted that room to feel first of all, eye exam rooms are quite dark. By nature, they have to be.
mhm,
I wanted it to feel like a totally different space, that she'd gone into a space where kind of anything could happen now. And I feel like that color, that shade of blue, we actually painted the room specifically in that color. It wasn't that color previously. It was like a sort of creamish type shade.
mhm,
Uh, it's very institutional. It feels medical,
mhm,
but it also feels a little bit retro. Um, and it's a kind of a non-specific time period. It's not intentionally a specific period. It's more that I wanted it to feel like it's not now, it's not our recognizable world. It could be a slightly different dimension, or it could be another time, but I didn't want it to be too specific, but to have that feeling of that edge of retro, that it might tonally be a little bit something like classic
mhm,
Twilight Zone, you know. But certainly the eye exam room itself was meant to feel much more of a dangerous space,
mhm.
a lot more shadow, and yeah, that kind of inherently creepy medical color, I think.
Yeah, and that's the one thing, like, I don't wanna spoil anything with it because there's a couple scenes where I was looking at it, I was like, "Oh, is there gonna be a jump scare here?" Because it just psychologically, it's messing with your brain during the exam, and I love that. I love psychological thrillers and psychological scares because it makes you think and you wonder what's happening next, and I think you did a great job. on the short film when it comes to that, because you really don't know what to expect.
Well, thank you so much. I think that was an important part of it. It was um, getting that balance right. On the one hand, it's a family audience. These pieces are all for family audience, but that doesn't mean that it can't be creepy and that it can't occupy that kind of scary space. But it can't be too overt either, and that's an interesting space to play in, as opposed to a horror film that is definitely for an adult audience, where you can do a lot more overt stuff. You really are left with the psychological when you can't go to the overt horror. And for me, that was quite fun to play with. And I did want it to feel like she was stuck, that she was hemmed into this seat, and that she as a person is too awkward to, she's too timid to really stand up for herself. Someone who was a bit more, was a bit more spirited might just say, no, I don't like this. I'm getting out of here. Yeah. But she is afraid of making other people uncomfortable even more than she's doesn't like being made uncomfortable herself. But even at that, she's still a survivor. So she figures out how to get out of this situation. Right. So even though she's been quite well cornered, she figures her way out of it. So it was a fun psychological space to play in, for sure.
Yeah. So did you present the idea to 20th Digital, or did they come up with the idea to you and you had presented a couple other films that you were?
Jack, the producer who wrote the film as well, so he got in touch with me and said that he had this, actually there were two, I think, scripts that he had written, and asked me if I'd be willing to pitch with him for the scheme, for the set of films. So that's how it started.
Wow.
Jack wrote the script. We pitched earlier this summer, and it was all done by Zoom because everything was already in lockdown.
Yeah.
And then we got the green light and made it September.
How many days did it take to shoot this?
1 day.
1 day.
Yeah, wow. It was very quick.
Well, that's really cool, because with what's going down with lockdown and everything, in order to get something like this done has been very difficult for a lot of people. And we're just seeing in the United States, we're just barely seeing production coming back to life here. So I could imagine how stressful it must have been.
It was nice as a filmmaker to actually film something this year. I did have other projects that have been put on hold because of just the situation with the pandemic. So it was nice just to stretch that muscle again and to get in and shoot something, even though it was just 1 day. It was also interesting to see how things are going to work during these kind of constrictions, how you can actually shoot something and keep everybody safe at the same time. So yeah, it was a good intro to that.
Oh, great. And what's next for you after this, for the next coming year? Are we going to expect a film to be shot hopefully soon?
Yeah, I hope so. As I say, I did have a couple of things that were ready to go and then that had to go on pause. So I hope they'll pick back up again. I should be shooting something. I have all the finance in place for production to go ahead next year, everything going to plan. So hopefully that'll be happening. I've got a couple of projects that are kind of on their marks, ready to go. And it's just a case of kind of getting all the pieces in place and seeing how things pan out. I don't think it'll be before Christmas. It'll be 2021. But hopefully another feature will be on the way in 2021.
Very cool, very cool. And this, 6,800 views already on YouTube for your short film. It is really good. We want to try and push as many people to go see it, because I think it's going to creep out a lot of people, especially during this Halloween time. But thank you for stopping with us and talking about your short film, and we look forward to seeing more from you. How can people find you and follow you for future films that you'll be releasing?
First of all, thanks for your kind words about the film. I really do appreciate that. It's really nice to hear the response. If people want to keep up with what I'm doing, you can follow me on Twitter at Aislinn Clarke. I got in there early and got that handle, so it's my whole name on Twitter, at Aislinn Clarke. And I'm on Instagram as the Wireless Girl, and I'm on Facebook under my own name as well. So I'm out there if you give me a Google.
Great. Well, thank you so much for stopping with us. You're going to be able to watch the short film we're gonna embed the link and also put it on our website so you can see it as soon as you see this interview. So thank you so much for stopping with us, and we look forward to talking with you soon.